So this TikToker, who also used to do DoorDash deliveries for a living up until very recently, posted a video to TikTok last month from one of her deliveries, and it caused quite a stir. She claimed that when she was dropping off a delivery, the customer sexually assaulted her by revealing to her his unclothed body below the waist, even though he was, by all appearances, totally unconscious. But then apparently after she reported him to DoorDash to get him kicked off the platform, DoorDash responded that they were kicking him off, but they were also kicking her off. And things recently got worse for her when she was arrested and charged with 2 felonies for unlawfully recording the man in his own home and uploading that recording to the internet. She is now facing 8 years in prison and could totally face civil liability from the guy that she recorded. But the thing is, looking at her other TikToks talking about this whole incident, she has seemingly doubled down on this victim narrative. And I don't think she realizes that she's actually the villain here. Let's get into it. Okay, so here's how everything went down. Olivia Henderson, who is 23 years old and from Oswego, New York, went viral on TikTok in October when she posted a video of a man with his pants and underwear around his ankles. This guy was a DoorDash customer to whom she was apparently delivering a food order. Now, I'm not going to show this full video because I don't really want to participate in the multiplication of his embarrassment on the internet, but I am going to show a screenshot of basically the beginning of the video, which shows his doorway. And then I'm going to show the part of the video that depicts her reaction to seeing what she saw. The video shows a man lying down on his back on a couch in what appears to be his living room. Then Henderson does this.
That's fucked up.
And the video includes this caption on it where she says, "A man named Austin orders DoorDash, selects the option to have order left at door, sees his DoorDasher, me, has a female name, quote, falls asleep on the couch, unquote, with his pants and underwear to his ankles and his front door wide open in 59° Fahrenheit. So this is what I see when I have to leave the order." So already at this point, a few things have happened. You have a guy lying on a couch in his own home, naked and apparently unconscious. And the internet now knows his first name and has seen maybe not his address, but the front and inside of his private home. We are already getting very close to doxing territory. And on top of that, the version of the video that I've seen didn't have any censorship over any part of his exposed body, which means when she uploaded this, she didn't try to hide any part of his identity or his intimate body parts. And with that caption that she put over the video, we have an accusation that this guy intentionally laid out like this because he saw that the DoorDasher somehow had a woman's name, which appears to imply that he's some sort of exhibitionist. She later expanded this accusation to say that this was some form of sexual assault. Here's her description of the incident in a later TikTok about it.
3 days ago, October 12th, 2025, I was a victim of SA by a DoorDash customer while I was doing my job as a DoorDash driver. Excuse me if you've already seen this. This is my 3rd time posting this because TikTok keeps silencing me and taking my videos down and giving me strikes. So if I get one more strike, you guys, I'm just letting you know right now my account is going to be banned. So I'm going to try to word this as chill as possible to avoid getting this video striked. So on October 12th, 2025, the DoorDash customer requested that their order be left at their front door. When I arrived at their front door was wide open, their lights were on, and they were sleeping on the couch within eyesight of the front door with their pants and underwear pulled down to their ankles, and they were indecently exposed to me. I got this on video, and I'm not even going to be posting the video clip anymore because I'm pretty sure that's what's getting me the strikes. But yeah, I reported it to DoorDash, and DoorDash did ban the customer, and then 2 days later, DoorDash banned me, which doesn't seem unrelated. I appealed, and they were supposed to respond to my appeal within 7 to 10 business days. They didn't even provide me a reason for my deactivation. They're supposed to send an email. They didn't. So I contacted support, and they told me to continue with my appeal without knowing a reason why. There's an option to select, don't know why I was deactivated, and then you still have to explain yourself. So I did. And within 12 hours afterward, they had already denied my appeal. So I'm really never getting my DoorDash account back. DoorDash deactivated me. DoorDash punished me for exposing my assaulter, and TikTok is currently punishing me for exposing my story time. And this is the only justice I'm getting because I also reported this to the police, and the police are doing nothing. So what? You're gonna take down my videos and give me strikes and just expect me to be like, oh, I just better shut up. I just better sit here and be quiet. I just better not say anything else. I've lost my job, my only way to pay my bills and make a living. I've also gotten assaulted, and the police are doing nothing to help me. So let me just shut up. You know, the videos got taken down. Nobody has to know what happened to me. No, I'm going to keep telling my story.
And now we'll talk about why this actually isn't sexual assault. But first, I have to thank this video sponsor. This video is sponsored by Masterclass. Masterclass is one of the premier edutainment providers out there. They offer online seminars taught by over 200 industry experts in a wide range of fields. From entrepreneurship to writing to raising kids to all kinds of cooking, there really is something for everyone here. And plans start at $10 a month billed annually. I recently had a long drive with Mr. Bites and Baby Bites, and so we decided to listen to the 3-part series on the signs of parenting. As new parents, we are definitely just learning as we go, so it was so helpful to be able to sit down and learn from clinical psychologists about how to best navigate parenting and what sort of measuring sticks we should even be using for ourselves as parents. They also talked about things like how to navigate parenting 2 different children when they have different strengths and weaknesses. For example, if you have one kid that's always very flexible and go with the flow, and maybe another kid that has maybe some more needs or is just a bit more particular in their temperament, it can be easy to just kind of start going with what that kid wants, just to lower the temperature in the room faster and more in the short term. But they said that you also want to make sure that you're checking in with that flexible, go with the flow kid to make sure that they're still feeling heard and not just getting steamrolled by other people or other factors in their environment. But honestly, the biggest thing that this series did for me was to leave me with a sense that, yeah, as a mom, I am going to be making mistakes, but those mistakes can be patched up and moved past typically. And that's honestly a huge relief. And now, during this holiday season, you can get up to 50% off an annual Masterclass subscription. Just click the link in the description below or scan the QR code so they'll know I sent you. Learn from the best to become your best with Masterclass. And thanks again to Masterclass for sponsoring this video. Okay, back to the video. So let's talk for a moment about sexual assault because she keeps using that phrase to describe her situation and she is completely wrong.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
In New York, what is required for any form of sexual assault is, at a bare minimum, first, some kind of sexual contact or an intentional touch of an intimate nature, and second, lack of consent by the victim. Now, she's arguably got lack of consent in spades, but in order for there to be sexual assault here, both of these minimum elements have to be met. And the thing is, if someone is completely unconscious, they can't perform any intentional or volitional act. And apparently, his side of the story is that he passed out because he drank too much that night. But we're not just talking about him being impaired. We are talking about him being completely unconscious. And she never alleges that he touched her in any way. By all appearances, he had no idea that she was even there in the first place because it looks like he was asleep on his couch on the far end of the room. Now, this of course leads to another question. If this wasn't sexual assault, what about the fact that she saw his nuts without her consent when he had the door open? First, she says that the door was wide open when she walked up, but this is disputed. In fact, what's being reported is that police have since reviewed ring footage from the man's house, and that it shows Henderson letting herself into the man's home. But even aside from that issue, there's still not much of a case for her with that claim either. You see, New York does recognize some form of indecent exposure, but that doesn't seem to fit here. You see, Penal Code Section 245 calls this public lewdness, and it says that a person is guilty of public lewdness if they intentionally expose themselves either in a public place or in a private place, but in a situation where they know they can be seen from a public place or from other private premises or while they're trespassing. Otherwise, in the state of New York, as is the case in most, if not all states in the United States, when you are in the privacy of your own home, you are allowed to let your freak flag fly. You can be as nude as you want because that is your own private space. And so looking at what the law requires, none of these requirements of public lewdness describe this situation because due to the angle of where the couch is situated in his house, in order to see this guy's nakedness, you have to be at or inside his doorway to see him, regardless of whether the door was wide open or not. And even if the door was open, there was no invitation for her to enter his home. By her own account, the instructions by the customer to DoorDash were to leave the food at the door. So there was no expectation that she go inside or that she even wait for him to answer the door. Her professional obligation was complete upon dropping the food off on his doorstep. So there's absolutely no evidence here that this guy somehow laid this trap because he saw that the DoorDasher was a woman. And mind you, a lot of people defending this woman are talking about how as a female DoorDasher, you probably encounter a lot of creeps. And I can empathize with that because for a period of time in my 20s, I was an Uber driver in Southern California, and being an Uber driver is kind of similar to being a DoorDasher. Around that time, I took people on trips from LA County to Palm Springs down to the literal southern border. And honestly, for the most part, it was at least a neutral, if not relatively positive experience. But even still, not everyone was a joy to drive. Some were a-holes, some were obnoxious, and yeah, some were a little creepy. So believe me when I say that I absolutely understand the experience of being a woman in your 20s and working this type of gig job, as well as some of the weird encounters you can have around it. And because of that, I can empathize with the frustration or maybe even panic about being on the job and encountering someone's nudity you're not asking for it. But what matters in those situations is how you choose to deal with that encounter. One choice is to see this person as a flawed human being who might not be having the best night and who is in an embarrassing state even in his own home. And by that I mean you can do your damn job and leave the DoorDash delivery on the doorstep and close the door before you leave so that no one else has to stumble upon the scene. And then let that be it. The other alternative is you do what unfortunately seems to be the most popular choice these days, which is to take advantage of this total stranger by throwing this embarrassing scene on the internet for clicks and cash. And that unfortunately appears to be what this woman did. We already talked about how Henderson was not sexually assaulted because the way that she describes the encounter does not fit into the definition of sexual assault. But now we're going to talk about the flip side, about how her choices have actually already led to some consequences and how they can actually lead to even more consequences.
See, as you can see, the more you around, the more you're going to find out.
So she's busy raging about how DoorDash, TikTok, and the police are all vectoring against her as if this is some massive conspiracy to silence an SA victim.
So not only did I get assaulted 3 days ago on October 12th on Sunday, I then lost my job. The police are doing nothing. And if I get one more account strike on TikTok, my account's done. This is a man's world. I'm the victim. Remember? I'm the victim.
But in reality, it looks like every single step of the way when she's had a choice to go one way or another, she has chosen the incorrect path. As I said before, the best decision that she could have made would be an act of grace and kindness. But that would have required her to think beyond herself and into a universe where other people exist too. And not to mention, you don't get any clicks if you don't put it on the internet. But at the very least, she could have decided not to record the video of the man in his own home, or she could have decided not to upload that video to TikTok, again, for clicks and cash. Now, of course, she says that she's done all of these things so that she can report him to prevent other people from being victimized by this horrible, horrible man. But here's why I'm skeptical of her motives. First, there's the fact that she apparently acted in the following order. She uploaded to TikTok, then she reported him to DoorDash, and then she finally got around to filing a police report. In fact, she apparently didn't contact the police until a mass of people commenting on her already viral TikTok video convinced her to do so.
I didn't report this to the police last night because I wasn't sure of DoorDash's process for SA or if this was even reportable to the police in New York State because he was in his home. But after so many people told me to report it to the police, I did. And I called the non-emergency line and they sent a police officer over to speak to me in person and watch the video that I have. And then he asked me to email it to him and he asked me if I want to press charges, like what do I want to come from this? And I said, yeah, if there are charges to press, I would prefer that because I don't want this to happen to somebody else again. And he understood that, the police officer, and then he went back out to his car and then he came back to me and he told me, this is pretty much verbatim. It's not verbatim, but it's the point that he said. He said he's not sure if that there are charges that can be pressed at this point because he was inside of his house. And specifically, he said it's not like he came up to his door with it out or his window with it out or whatever. But it's come on now. How likely is it that it's cold outside? It's pretty chilly. Your ceiling fan is on. You got all your lights on in your house. You got your front door open, right? You just ordered DoorDash 15 minutes ago. And within 15 minutes of ordering DoorDash and it getting delivered to your front door, you're asleep on the couch with your pants and your underwear to your ankles, your front door wide open, your lights on, it's freezing outside. Come on now. That is voyeurism. That is exhibitionism.
So the fact that she encountered this situation and her first thought wasn't, I should report this to the police, but instead it was, I should splash this all over the internet, is a huge red flag. Another red flag is what she just said in that clip, which is that she herself was skeptical as to whether or not he was guilty of some kind of criminal offense, given that he was inside his own home. But there's an even bigger red flag that tells me why she probably sprinted to TikTok to upload all of this footage before even thinking about going to the police. And I think she told on herself during one of her rage videos about how TikTok and DoorDash and the police are all supposedly doing her dirty.
And they took down my video. They were gonna have to pay me for my second story time because that was over a minute long. They were gonna have to pay me for all those views I got. So nope, they took that right down. They took that right down. Absolutely not. They're not paying me for that. Nope.
Now, of course, it's possible to be concerned with multiple things at once, but seeing her level of panic over the fact that she was not going to get paid for the views that she had accumulated for that original video, it just feels like monetization was her main motivation here. Her screaming about this revenue issue, along with the fact that she went to TikTok before she had to be convinced to go to the police. To me personally, this just looks like someone who saw an awkward situation and decided that she wanted to cash in on it for clout and money by painting herself as a victim of someone else's misfortune. And the thing is, uploading the original video and then uploading other videos talking about the original video have already started to bite her in the ass. And there's a possibility that they could continue to do so even more so moving forward. First, there's the fact that she's now been charged with 2 felonies, one for unlawful surveillance by recording him in his own home without his consent, and another for uploading that unlawful recording onto the internet. And when she was arrested, the Oswego City Police Department actually issued a press release about it. Here's what they said. On October 13th, 2025, an incident was reported to the Oswego Police Department regarding an incident that occurred on October 12th, 2025. It was reported that a male DoorDash customer had been nude inside his residence when a DoorDash delivery driver dropped off a food order. An investigation was initiated by the Oswego Police Department, during which it was discovered that the delivery driver had taken video of the nude male. The video, along with the subsequent investigation, indicates that the male was incapacitated and unconscious on his couch due to alcohol consumption. The video was taken from the exterior of the male's residence. The DoorDash driver subsequently posted the video to social media, where it drew significant attention. It was further discovered that the DoorDash driver had made claims of being sexually assaulted during this incident. The investigation by the Oswego Police Department determined that no sexual assault occurred. The male depicted in the video cooperated with police and provided a statement. The investigation ultimately led to the arrest of the DoorDash driver, Olivia Henderson, 23, of Oswego, for recording and disseminating the videos. Henderson was charged with the following: 1 count of unlawful surveillance in the 2nd degree, 1 count of dissemination of an unlawful surveillance image in the 1st degree. Henderson was released after being processed on the above charges and was issued an appearance ticket for a future court date in Oswego City Court. The Oswego Police Department continues to investigate the circumstances surrounding this incident and is in communication with the Oswego County District Attorney's Office regarding the prosecution of these charges. Independent video related to the incident has been collected and reviewed by the police department. Anyone with further information about the investigation or others is encouraged to contact the Oswego PD. Now, as to the felony charges, she is apparently looking at prison time of 8 years. Now, I personally doubt that, since I'm guessing here this is probably her first offense. But if convicted, even if she gets a reduced sentence, that's still a felony on her record, which ironically can impact her ability to get, a real job. And in terms of the facts of the case, there's not much for her to fight here. There's no dispute she recorded him. There's no dispute that he was inside his home. There's no dispute that he was unconscious. And there's no dispute that she knew all of that. Like I said before, she's also talked quite a bit about caring a lot about monetization of that original video. And by the way, she's also talked about how she put the video out there specifically so she could name and shame him for being in that state with the door open.
Like, this is the only justice I'm getting, is exposing this man and having posted that video and it has gone viral. Like, now he can live with shame and embarrassment if people have seen it and knows who he is or where he, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm the one being punished. He's not getting in trouble with the police. He didn't lose his job if he has one. Like, what's going on with him? Why am I getting fired? Why are my videos getting taken down, and why am I getting strikes? Like, I'm about to lose my account. I was assaulted. I'm the victim. I lost my job. I'm the victim. Right? Is this making sense to any fucking body?
So in terms of these criminal charges, in my opinion, she is very screwed. But if the man decided to do so, he also could sue her civilly for his own claims. Now, let me just say at the outset, though, that I highly doubt that any sort of civil action is going to result from this, because litigation is so expensive and so time consuming that the juice has to be worth the squeeze. And something tells me she doesn't have really any juice to make any of that worth it. But if he had FU money and he decided to just make her life miserable because she's made his miserable, he totally could. First, there's of course a potential claim for unlawful dissemination or publication of an intimate image. And for that, he could get not just compensatory damages, but punitive damages, injunctive relief, and costs and attorney's fees. Then there's also New York's statutory right of privacy and publicity for using his name and likeness for commercial purposes without his consent. The fact that she uploaded it to TikTok, then cried about the monetization she lost when TikTok yeeted it would tend to support this claim against her. Then, of course, there's intentional infliction of emotional distress. For this claim, the man would need to show, first, Henderson engaged in extreme and outrageous conduct. Second, she either intended to cause or was reckless about causing him severe emotional distress. Third, he has to show that he did indeed suffer severe emotional distress. And fourth, he has to show that his emotional distress was caused by her conduct. Now, for most cases, it can be pretty hard to find conduct that is sufficiently extreme and outrageous to adequately prove an IIED claim. But recording a naked man in his own home and then uploading that to TikTok to name and shame him and also get all the clicks and cash is generally seriously frowned upon by society, and I think that's going to do it in this situation. And now the other element that is usually pretty hard to prove in IIED is the defendant's intent to cause severe emotional distress. But here, again, she told on herself. Remember, she said this.
Like, this is the only justice I'm getting, is exposing this man and having posted that video and it has gone viral. Like, now he can live with shame and embarrassment if people have seen it and knows who he is or where he...
She said she wants to cause him shame and embarrassment by putting his naked nuts on the internet. That's about as clear of intent for IIED as you can find. Anyway, lastly, there's defamation. Now, the original video that she posted isn't necessarily defamatory because by all accounts, it seems like it accurately depicts the scene that she encountered, and defamation always involves some form of a lie in a statement. But the part that could land her in defamation land is continuing to characterize herself as a victim of his sexual assault. That is obviously a huge accusation, and as we went over earlier in this video, it is not an accurate label. And the thing is, usually when we're talking about defamation on this channel, we are talking about public figures. And public figures tend to have a very difficult time proving defamation. But in this situation, we are talking about a hypothetical plaintiff who is 100% a private citizen, nowhere near being a public figure. And so it would be substantially easier for the plaintiff to win on a defamation claim. Here are the elements that he would have to show. First, the man would have to show that Henderson lied about him sexually assaulting her. Second, he has to show that she made the statement to at least one third party. Easy. Third, he has to show that the lie is the kind of statement that courts will find defamatory nature. Also easy. And fourth, he has to show that Henderson made the statement negligently. Now, notice I didn't say anything here about him having to prove that she caused him reputational harm. That's because the lie that she's telling the internet about him is that he committed a sexual crime against her. So we're not just in defamation land, we are in defamation per se land, where the law assumes that there's reputational harm just because of how salacious that statement is. So now let's focus on that level of intent part, negligence. When we're talking about public figures as defamation plaintiffs, we are talking about actual malice, meaning that the defendant knew that what they were saying was false or they were reckless as to the truth or falsity of the statement. But like I said, this guy is an average person. He's not a public figure. So all he has to show is that Henderson was negligent about saying that he sexually assaulted her, meaning all he has to do is show that she didn't use reasonable care when running her mouth. That's like the same standard as switching lanes when you're driving and not being careful enough to look over your shoulder to check your blind spot before moving over. And given her statements about why she initially doubted whether or not she could file a police report because, he was in his own home, and how she never accuses him of some unwanted touching, I think we can get negligence here in accusing him of sexually assaulting her. But looking at this whole picture, I really think that all of this, in my opinion, is an unfortunate consequence of long-term victimhood mentality and self-centeredness, and not to mention the twisted idea that every encounter you have deserves to be shared with the internet. At the end of the day, Olivia Henderson in this situation is not a victim. She is the villain. And by the looks of it, life is giving her a serious Uno reverse card to serve as a big wake-up call for her decisions that have sprung out of this victim mentality and egocentrism. But those are my thoughts. What do you think? Do you think I'm being too hard on her? Or do you think that she deserves absolutely every bit of what's coming to her? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this or at least found it interesting or informative. And if you did, I would love it if you would hit the like button. It does help us with the YouTube algorithm gods. And if you're new here and you want to see more coverage of crazy cases and interesting legal topics, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can find out when the next video is out there. And if you're really enjoying the content and you want to know how to best support the channel, consider becoming a member of Byte Club. You can join either through YouTube memberships or by becoming a supporter on Patreon. Links to both are in the description below. Otherwise, see you in the next one.